Hi, this is Chico Resch. You are listening to the Let's Go Devils podcast on the Primetime Radio Network.
Hello and happy Devils Tuesday to you watching on YouTube Live, Twitter Live, Twitch, Facebook Live, anywhere you catch the Let's Go Devils podcast network. My name is Vinnie Parise, and I am extremely excited to be with you here today. A little bit of a scheduling conflict, so I'm coming at you solo. Sam Wu is watching. He's thinking about each and every one of you. We will be back together very soon. I'm very excited to be here with you today as the New Jersey Devils take on the Montreal Canadiens. Listen, this is one of those games where the Devils come in and they're the better team. You know they're the better team right off the bat, right? They're not playing the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are a bubble team fighting for their life. They're not playing the New York Rangers, who they're probably going to see in the first round of playoffs. They're playing the Montreal Canadiens, okay? And I'm looking at the standings right now. The Montreal Canadiens are firmly in the Connor Bedard sweepstakes. They're not like right at the bottom where like they have a really good chance to land Connor Bedard. But if there was like a surprise team somewhere that might be able to sneak up and maybe grab that first or second overall pick, it's a team like the Montreal Canadiens, who are 23, 29, and 4 for 15 or 50 standings points. They have a minus 54 goal differential. Listen, they are not having a good season. Right, and they didn't have a good season last year. They ended up having the number 1 overall pick, and you remember right there with the Devils having the number 2 overall pick, they ended up with Juraj Slafkovsky and the Devils, Simon Nemec. They're one of those teams right now that are kind of going through a little bit of a rebuild. They have great players like Cole Caulfield, who's out for the season, so the Devils aren't going to be seeing him tonight. But Kirby Dach having a really good year. It's one of those teams the Devils should win. There's no reason for anybody to go into this game and think that, the Habs should beat the Devils. And people like to talk trap game whenever the Devils or any good team plays against a pretty bad team like the Montreal Canadiens. The Devils can't think like that. They haven't made the playoffs in 5 years, right? Or 4 years, whatever it is. And that was the one-off year with Taylor Hall. Before that, hadn't made it since 2012 when they went to the Stanley Cup final. Right, so the Devils can't be one of those teams that become victim to trap games. They need to play every single game like they're the bad team because they're still incredibly unproven. And when you play a team like Montreal, that's what you're going to get. There are some big storylines coming from what's going on today with the Devils. Of course, the big one, Mackenzie Blackwood. He left the morning skate today. And he tweaked something, according to, the reports that have been coming out. And the Devils, they decided to call up Akira Schmid. Blackwood tweaked something to the point where he isn't even able to back up. He's not even able to throw on a uniform and possibly come in because Vitek Vanacek was in the starters net long before Blackwood even got in there and was injured during the warm-up. But, I mean, this is why you like to have goalie depth, right? This is why having Blackwood, Schmid, and Vanacek all in one little system here is pretty good. And all three of them have shown at different points this season that they're capable of carrying the load. People talk about trading Blackwood pre-trade deadline and stuff. I can't get down with that because of what happened today. What if this were Vitek Vanacek that happened to, and all of a sudden Mackenzie Blackwood is traded away? Now you have Akira Schmid going into the playoffs. That's just not how things, should be shaking out going into the playoffs for the first time in a long time with a young team. So Akira Schmid, hopefully that he doesn't play tonight because that would mean Vitek Vanacek either got injured or completely lit up. So that's something that we are trying to completely avoid going into today's game and, all sorts of stuff. But, the Devils, they're coming off a pretty big win here against the Winnipeg Jets on Sunday evening. And after that, it was a pretty big win over the Pittsburgh Penguins the night before. The Devils played Winnipeg very well, and Winnipeg has a guy who's in the conversation for the Vezina Trophy with Connor Hellebuck in net, and they were losing 2-1 going into the third period, and I'm thinking to myself as they're going into the third period, this is one of those types of games where the Devils need to dig deep. Right? Every now and then you hear people say that in sports, like, oh, this is where you dig deep. This is where you see who you are as a team. Well, against one of the elite teams in the Western Conference, the Winnipeg Jets, the Devils go into this third period trailing 2-1. It's one of the games where Jack Hughes was buzzing a little bit, but it wasn't one of those games where you watch the stars on the team and they're like, wow, these guys are taking over in this one. They they weren't. It was the second half of a back-to-back. You're finally at home for the first time in a long time. And I think it was like 8 or 9 days where they weren't at home. They had the long Midwest road trip, and then they ended it in Pittsburgh. Um, the depth took over. And in the third period, you had big goals from Fabian Zetterlund and Miles Wood and Dawson Mercer, putting the team on his absolute back once again. 2 goals in that game. He ended up getting credited with the first one. I believe he still ended up with credit. I actually never went and looked back and saw if they changed it back to Tatar, because it was Tatar, then it was Mercer. I don't know if they ever changed it back, but I'm pretty sure it was Dawson Mercer's goal. And then just a resilient effort to beat Cole Perfetti to the puck and put it into the empty net. I mean, it was the speed from Dawson Mercer and the tenacity, and that's everything you like to see from a guy like that. So, it's a big win for the Devils that propels them into this home game against the Montreal Canadiens. So it's an exciting time. And, we look at the pregame skate rushes from today. I like what I see. They got Mercer up on the top line with Tomas Tatar, and of course, Nico Hischier's the center. The second line is where you can really start to see some scoring coming along here. Jack Hughes has been one of the best players in the NHL all season long. I tweeted a couple days ago that I truly believe he's the best player in the Metropolitan Division. Now, at least in how they're playing right now, it's Jack Hughes. And having Jesper Bratt and Yegor Sharangovich on his wing, that used to be a trio that didn't work very well. There was a point in time where I hated Sharangovich with Hughes, but after what I've seen so far this season, and I believe Hughes can play with anyone, and that's actually a really nice trio there. They're calling it the second line. I guess who gets more ice time depends on whether or not it was the first line or the second line. But Hughes and Hischier, they're going to have different roles for the rest of their careers, and doesn't matter who's one, who's two. They're both great. One is two-way, one is offensive, and I like Bratt playing with Hughes. We'll see if the Devils are able to add that top six winger. You know who I'm thinking of. His initials are TM. It'd be nice to add him to that top six, but with the bottom six isn't too bad either. I know Nathan Bastian is not going to be in the lineup again for the second straight game, so they're going to use Fabian Zetterlund on the third line. I mean, why wouldn't Fabian Zetterlund get a chance to play again after scoring that ginormous goal in the last game against Winnipeg? He will be on the opposite side of Andre Palat with Eric Haula in the middle. I know that up in Toronto, they're saying Austin Matthews and John Tavares and Ryan O'Reilly, these guys are the best trio of centers in the whole Eastern Conference. Well, they might be right, but guess what? In the postseason, I like Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes, Eric Haula as a trio of centers for a very young team that hasn't done much in the postseason in a very long time. And then you got the fourth line of Miles Wood with Jesper Boquist on each side of Michael McLeod as the fourth line centerman. On defense, you have Smith playing all the way up with Dougie Hamilton. And I had a feeling this was going to happen. Whoever was considered the sixth defenseman on the team coming up to play with Dougie Hamilton, because of this second pairing of actually today they have Severson playing with Graves, but I actually kind of like Severson playing with Siegenthaler if Marino's able to play with Graves. But we did learn today that Marino is out with an illness. I don't believe it's anything to do with COVID, and it's not an injury. So Smith is staying up with Hamilton, but Severson comes up to play with Graves, and Siegenthaler comes down to play with Kevin Ball, who will replace John Marino in the lineup. I do, when we talk about the defensive pairs, if Marino's playing, I like him with Graves. And Siegenthaler would then be put with Severson. And Siegenthaler got that health bomb on Saturday night. People were speculating about it. It certainly wasn't an injury related. It was just like, hey, man, take a rest. Your play has dipped a little bit in the last little bit. And I thought he had a really good game against Winnipeg. So if you go out there and you put Siegenthaler with Damon Severson, they played all season together last year, and they were outstanding. I think you'd do it over again this year. But Kevin Ball, he will come in and play for Marino, so we'll see how he's able to play. I know there hasn't been a Hotuk in a while. Plenty of people are sitting there thinking about the day that Simon Nemec gets called up to make his NHL debut. I'm not certain that that's coming anytime soon, but he is eligible at any time. He's playing in the A. So, and then Luke Hughes, as soon as Michigan is done, we'll see how long it takes him to get his NHL contract signed and whether or not he starts in Utica or comes up to the New Jersey Devils and plays with them right away. And as mentioned before, Vitek Vanacek will get the start in goal. It was planned for Blackwood to be the backup goaltender, but now we know it's going to be Akira Schmid because of the injury to Blackwood during the pregame warmups. If there's anything you'd like to chime in, make sure you go onto the YouTube Live and throw in some comments, predictions. I want to hear from everyone. Someone asked in the chat, Ted1775 wants to know what's Blackwood's injury. They haven't really said anything other than the fact that it was just he tweaked something. And it was apparently annoying him enough to the point where they called up Schmid, and he's going to, be into play. And people in the chat, I'm seeing them talk about, trading Blackwood, this leading to a trade. I don't really think so. I actually think he hurt himself. And maybe, I could be wrong, but does Timo Meyer require a goaltender in the trade back? I'm not sure that San Jose is trading for a moderately young goalie who has promising potential, but, I don't really know. We'll see what happens with that. I want to see everyone's predictions start flowing into the chat. I know I got a prediction here from Sam Wu, getting ready to reveal that. I see there are a bunch of people there at American Whiskey. I hope everybody's getting ready for this game against the Montreal Canadiens, and that should certainly be exciting. But, this Devils team, they play against a team like the Canadiens. They should go out there and they should get their touches. I'm sure there'll be a couple power plays. And, you got to go out there and you got to be feeling good about your game. And we've seen Nico Hischier step up. He's got 5 points in his last 2 games. That's outstanding, obviously. Jack Hughes ended a 10-game personal point streak last game. Listen, nobody's Wayne Gretzky out there going 50 straight games with a point. Even McDavid doesn't do stuff like that. So, Jack Hughes, the point streak was always going to snap at some point. The Devils still earn the win because of their depth. I'm expecting a big game here from Jack Hughes, though. He is going to go out there and he's going to know that this is a team that he can, flourish against. And hopefully that is something that, he's able to do. Of course, when you talk about the New Jersey Devils on February 21st, just a couple weeks before the trade deadline, you're going to want to hear some trade deadline talk. There's plenty of talk. Yesterday, Alexander Holtz left the Utica game with an injury, and people were speculating, like, oh, does this have anything to do with the trade? Because Timo Meyer subsequently was not playing for the San Jose Sharks. He's apparently injured as well, but it also wouldn't surprise me too much if we were at the point where the smallest tweak that Timo Meyer or Alexander Holtz could be dealing with is something to keep them out, because I actually think those two getting traded for one another is one of the more perfect storylines that we could come up with in the NHL right now, and I'll tell you why. Alexander Holtz has a lot of experience playing with William Eklund, the top prospect in the San Jose Sharks organization. I'm actually not sure if he's considered the top prospect, but he's up there for them. And he's got like 16 points in his last 14 games with the Barracuda of the AHL, and he's just been having a wonderful season down there in the A. And I would assume that San Jose is very interested in reuniting Eklund with Alexander Holtz. They are countrymen with one another. And of course, Timo Meyer, there's the story about him being a Swiss player. And the Devils have a pretty good feeling on Swiss hockey. They have Siegenthaler on the back end, but of course their captain, Nico Hischier, and Timo Meyer have played together for Team Switzerland in the World Championships as recently as 2019. I want to say they played together over there. And absolutely, you could just type in Timo Meyer, Nico Hischier on Twitter, and you'll see highlights of these two just making really, really nice chemistry, having great, ability to find each other and know where the other person's going to be. And that's just after a couple world practices. Imagine if they got to play each other in the NHL. And, that's not something that gets talked about enough, because I think people assume that if the Devils traded for Timo Meyer, he would automatically be on Jack Hughes' wing. And I'm not so positive that that would be the case. I would put him with Hischier. They have that chemistry. They've played together before. And why wouldn't you want to keep Jesper Bratt with Jack Hughes? That's been working all season. Jack Hughes is like top 10 in scoring, and he's got 35 goals. There are a bunch of really good players who won't even reach 35 goals all season. So, we'll see what happens. But if the Devils make a move like that, that will tell everyone they might not win the Cup this year, because I do think an extension comes with trading for Meyer, and he'll be with the team for a very long time. That tells the league, hey, we have this awesome prospect pool. Luke Hughes is on the way. Simon Nemec is on the way. We have Jack Hughes. We have Nico Hischier. Dougie Hamilton's locked in. He's going to get top 5 Vezina consideration, or not Vezina, excuse me, Norris Trophy conversation. So, this Devils team, they're on the right track. we'll see what happens. There's one more story I wanted to touch on before we head on into our game day live predictions. Kevin Weeks tweeted something very interesting today. First, he started off with one of his cryptic Kevin Weeksy type tweets where it's like, hey, I'm going to be dropping some NHL news. And it was a picture of what looked like, I want to say it was Australia, like a picture of some port in Australia, and then a map of New Jersey. And I was like, that's weird. I don't really understand what that means. Maybe it was in Australia and maybe I'm stupid, which is very possible. But then, like 25 minutes later, he tweeted out about how he's hearing the possibility of the New Jersey Devils playing the Stadium Series next year at MetLife Stadium, home of the New York Football Giants and the New York Jets. And they would obviously play a team, I'm assuming one of their rivals, but he didn't have the other team announced. I would like to know, you can go to my Twitter at Vinnie Parise and reply to my most recent tweet about who you want the Devils to play. I think I suggested the Bruins, the Rangers, and the Islanders, and then I put other. A lot of people are throwing in the comments right now the Buffalo Sabres. I think that would be an outstanding, little rivalry to start over the next couple years as both teams start to ascend at the same time and have superstars. Ted in the chat says Tampa Bay. We got Felix saying the Flyers. Lots of Rangers, obviously. I think both teams will be in a little bit different of a spot next year than they are right now. But I don't know. We will see. Looking in the chat, Cornhole says, like I said, I'm 99% sure we get Timo Meyer. Too many odd things happening, too many coincidences going on. It's interesting. And yes, Stadium Series at MetLife Stadium, Devils and Rangers rematch. Yeah. I mean, the Devils and Rangers played at Yankee Stadium. I want to say it was 2014 in the Stadium Series. One thing I recently learned, once Vegas and Seattle play in their Winter Classic next year, only the Columbus Blue Jackets, Florida Panthers, and Arizona Coyotes are the teams that have not played a single outdoor game in their history. So that makes me wonder, are they kind of waiting a little bit to see who the Devils play based on who wins the draft lottery? Because would they have the Devils play the Columbus Blue Jackets if they got Connor Bedard and you could showcase Jack Hughes and Connor Bedard in the same game outside? I think that's something certainly to consider. I didn't even tweet that or anything yet. That just kind of popped in my head just now because I heard earlier today that those are the three teams that haven't played in any outdoor game, Stadium Series, Winter Classic, Heritage Classic, any of it. But, we'll see what happens. I hope the Devils are involved in this. I would like to go to that. And it would be something so fun and so great for the Devils fans. And quite frankly, everyone knows about Jack Hughes, but I'd like to see the rest of the world get to know Nico Hischier, right? One of the great young two-way players in the game right now. Let's get to know Jesper Bratt. Hockey fans all over the world deserve to know what Dougie Hamilton is doing and how great Vitek Vanacek is and stuff like that. So, definitely an interesting topic of conversation to go over the next, little while here as we learn who is going to be with the Stadium Series next year. We do know the Winter Classic, as I mentioned, will be played between the Vegas Golden Knights and Seattle Kraken. So, prediction time. Max says 6-2 Devils. Felix says 5-2 Devils. Ted, Devils 5-3 against the Habs. Wyatt says Devils win 5-3 or 5-1, excuse me. Looking for some more prediction. Ramona Rice, who's always in the chat, going 4-1 Devils. 6-2 Devils. Jack Hughes, Hattie showing up. Caulfield, that's Max. I don't believe Caulfield's out for the year. I'm like 99% sure, but you could still show him up even though I guess he's not playing. Looking for more in the chat. Cornhole says 3-1 Devils. Steve Engel says 4-2 Devils. And of course, I have my prediction over here in my text message area from the great Sam Wu. He predicts that the New Jersey Devils are going to win the game by a final score of 6-1. That's not completely out of the question. Montreal's not good. They don't defend well. They don't get good goaltending. They don't score a whole bunch. I do think they'll probably score more than one goal. That's my personal opinion. I am going to go with the New Jersey Devils winning this game by a final score of, what should I say here for the New Jersey Devils? I got this right last game. I almost never get it right. And going into the third, it wasn't looking good. I needed 3 goals in order to be right, but they did end up winning 4-2. So I'm actually going to feed off Sam Wu a little bit here, though, and take the Devils scoring a bunch of goals, but I'm going to go one less. I say they will win this game 5-2. A 5-2 New Jersey Devils victory over these Montreal Canadiens. see if we have any more in the chat here. It'll be interesting. Felix says Ramona's usually on with the score. Yes, I would say out of everyone that comments regularly, she's they are the one that totally are always closest to being right. Shane says 6-1 Devils. R. Nunez says 4-3 NJD. Dave Singer says 11-3, highest scoring game of the year. I'm trying to remember. There was a game that Montreal was involved in like 4 or 5 years ago that I can't remember if the Montreal Canadiens were on the winning side or the losing side. I want to say they lost 10-0. It was the Columbus Blue Jackets, I'm pretty sure, too. Josh S. says 5-2 Devils. So that's pretty much it for this Devils Game Day Live. I do believe that this is going to be a really fun game for everyone to watch. I hope everybody's enjoying themselves over there at American Whiskey as you make your way over to the Prudential Center. Should be a lot of fun. Very much looking forward to it. And Sam Wu did want me to remind everyone that next Saturday, this upcoming Saturday, just a couple days from now, February the 25th, we are going to have the 500,000 party. That's right. We had 500,000 downloads on the Let's Go Devils podcast, and we are going to celebrate it with each and every one of you. You want to make sure you show up to American Whiskey to celebrate with the Let's Go Devils podcast crew. I will be beamed in here from Chicago, and we will have a great time. There's going to be some special people there that deserve your attention, so make sure you go over there. And I hope everybody enjoys the game. Happy Devils Tuesday to each and every one of you. And as always, thank you for listening. And as Sam Wu ends every single show, let's go Devils.